Oops.
I did it again.
I did it again. I made another mistake, but this time with gel. Like this was me. Like, because I learned gel secondary.
Yep, me too.
Acrylic first,
Me too.
then gel, and I made a lot of mistakes with it. So
Today we're going to work with gel. We're going to hopefully clear up some of your challenges and show you the mistakes that you might not even realize that you're making, but we'll show you what they are and how to fix them.
That's great. Sometimes the best learning is to see what not to do, and Karen's the queen of that. Just kidding.
No. The mistakes I have made myself, so I learned from somebody else.
Learn from our mistakes. So look forward to this. If you are new to gel or maybe old to gel and don't know what your problems are, watch this video.
Okay, so today I'm going to share with you guys some tips and tricks, things that people tend to make mistakes on when they're using our gels, challenges that they may have. So I'm going to show you a few things that are hopefully going to make your gel life a little bit easier. Okay, to start with, I'm going to talk a little bit about our base gels. So we have 3 different base gels now. We have our clear base gel, we have our concealer pink, and our concealer peach base. Okay, so when you're working on a full set or a fill, no matter what you're doing, you always want to start with the base layer. Okay, I've heard a lot of people tell me I never use the base. I don't like to use the base because it's just one more step. The reason that you need to use the base is that is your foundation. Okay, your base layer is going to be, it's kind of like when you're building a house. You always build a foundation so that your house is going to be nice and sturdy. That's the same with our base gels, okay? Our base gels are going to give you that foundation. They're going to give you a nice strong bond to that natural nail. And the difference between our base gel and any of the other building gels is that the base has more resins to it. So it's going to have that better bond to it, okay? So if you're skipping the base gel and you find that you're having a lot of lifting, go back, restart with the base gel, okay? So again, we have our 3 different bases. So we have our clear base gel. So you're going to use that if you're doing just a clear nail. You can use it if you're doing any kind of design work or dimensional nails so that you can just have a nice clear nail and you don't have any other color. And then we also have our concealer bases now. And these 2 are fantastic. So if you're going to be using either the concealer pink or the concealer peach in the precision tubes, you can use either one of those and you don't have that extra layer of clear underneath. Okay? Now when you're using the base gel, you're not trying to build up structure to the nail at all. You're just using it for a thin layer just to bond to the nail and give your nail that extra layer to grab onto. So when you're building on top of it, it's going to grab right on. So when you're using your base, you only need a little bit. So notice I'm not going in there and I'm not scooping up a whole lot, because this is going to be way more than what you need. Okay, so to pick up your base gel, I'm just going to get all that excess out. What I like to do is I just take my brush, touch the surface, and just kind of drag it across, pick up, and then you'll have just that little bit on the nail. Okay, again, it's not like when you're building. When you're building, you're going to do a little more floating and kind of moving that product around. With the base, you're just going to press that down into the nail. And you can see I'm using a good amount of pressure. You can see the brush actually does kind of bend a little bit. So I'm using that good amount of pressure, work all the way up to that cuticle. Okay, I'm going to pick up just a little bit more. I need just a little bit more towards my cuticle area. And again, just pressing that down in. Okay, you can kind of see that I almost scrub my brush on the nail a little bit just to make sure that it gets right down into all those little nooks and crannies of that natural nail. Okay, you want to get up as close to your cuticle as you can without touching. Make sure that your product doesn't touch the skin. If it does, grab an orange wood stick or grab a tool to come through and clean any product off the skin. So that way it's not going to cure on the skin. Okay, if you do get product on the skin and it cures, there's a really big chance that it could lift. Okay, so make sure again that as you're applying, you get up as close to the cuticle as you can and as close on those sidewalls as you can without touching. Okay. Now the base gel, we like to cure for a full 1 minute to give it a good solid cure. But if you're doing a clear gel over the top of it, say our Build or our Build Pink even, you can go ahead and just freeze that for 30 seconds and it'll continue to cure with your next coat. But a full cure of 1 minute is the full time that you would want to cure. Now, if you're using the concealer colors, you can use the concealer pink. I'm just going to use my mixing tile here, clean out a little bit of that out of my brush. Same application, just drag your brush through the top, tap off that extra, and then you're going to just brush that through that whole surface of the nail. Okay? Just building our foundation layer, getting right up to that cuticle, and then all the way down through the body of the nail. Now, if you were doing just a fill, so if we had product on the nail and say I want to use my concealer peach, if you're just doing a fill, you only really need that product where that natural nail is showing, okay? If you do blend it over the rest of the nail, that's fine, but for a fill, just worry about that natural nail, okay? And then just kind of blend out, okay? So again, 30 seconds is a good time to freeze this, but 1 minute is to fully cure. Okay, so the next mistake or challenge that people tend to have with our Synergy gel line is they don't know which product to use. They think there's so many different ones, I don't know what or why. I'm going to explain exactly what you should use for what step. Okay, so we have our base gel that we already talked about. That's always going to be your first step. After that, it's really up to you what you want to use, but I'm going to show you some things that are going to make your life a little easier so you don't choose the harder gel, the harder to use gel. Okay, so in our precision applicator tubes, we have our white Sculptor, we have our concealer peach and our concealer pink, and then we also have the clear Sculptor. Okay, now anything in the precision tubes is going to be a little bit on the thicker side so that you can use it a little bit more for sculpting and building the nail, and it's not going to run quite so much. Okay, we also have several different thicknesses. We have several different thicknesses of gels. We have clear Sculptor, we have our builder gels, and we have flex. Okay, so clear Sculptor in the pot is a little bit different than the clear Sculptor in the tube. Okay, in the tube, let me just show you real quick. Okay. In the tube, it is going to be a little bit self-leveling. So you can see, you can squeeze it out, you can work through that product, and it's going to still move and flow a little bit. Okay, with the clear Sculptor in the pot, that's going to be our thickest gel. Okay, so that one you actually do have to scoop down in to lift that out. Okay, so when you go to use this one, it's going to stay really where you put it. Okay, it's not going to move a whole lot, it's not going to settle a whole lot. Okay, so you can kind of even see from the side, see it's not even moving, it's not settling at all. So you can see the difference. They're both a clear Sculptor, but the clear Sculptor in the pot is going to be much thicker. So that's going to be really good for if you're doing full sets and you're just doing a solid clear sculpted nail. If you're doing a solid clear and you want a little bit more flow to your product, go ahead and use the clear Sculptor in the precision tube. Okay, so that's going to be our thickest gel. Now our middle set is our build gels. Now the build comes in either the clear or the build pink. I'm going to show you the build pink today. Okay. So the build pink, it's not like the base where you're just going to run your brush across the top. This one you do kind of have to scoop down in there and then you can pick it up. But it is a lot more self-leveling than what the Sculptor is in the tube. Okay? So you can kind of see it's even running off my brush if I don't control it. Okay, so then I can place that down, and you'll notice that this one does start to level quite quickly. Okay, we do have the pink and we do have the clear. So that is a little bit self-leveling. I like to use the build if I'm doing layers to my nail. So you can use the build pink or just the build for doing those dimensional nails. This way it's going to help to kind of build up the structure of the nail as you build layer by layer. Okay. The thinnest gel that we have is our flex gel. Now this is really thin, this is really self-leveling. So you can kind of even see in the pot, when I tip it on the side, it does run quite a bit. Okay. So when you place that onto a nail, it's going to feel a lot thinner. It's going to move a lot faster. Okay. So this one, the Flex Gel, is actually the gel that I like to use when I am mixing my glitters in on my mixing tile. So let me just quick show you what I mean by that. So if I am mixing, I've got our Fortune glitter here today. If I want to mix that in, I'm going to take a scoop of my Flex Gel. I'm going to place that on my tile. And then I'm just going to sprinkle my glitters into that. Now the reason that I like to use the Flex rather than any of the rest of them is that anytime you add glitter to your gel, it's going to thicken up your gel. Okay? So if I were to add this to my clear Sculptor, you can see that still hasn't self-leveled. If I were to add the glitter to that clear Sculptor, it's just going to be way too thick to work with. So when I'm mixing, if I add that to my Flex Gel, it's going to thicken it up a little bit. And now you can see it's going to self-level a little bit, but it's going to have a little bit more structure to it. Okay, so that's again why I like to mix my glitters in with my Flex. So those are the different viscosities or thicknesses of our gels. So again, any of the Sculptor gels in the precision tubes are going to be a little bit thicker. Our thickest one in the pot is the clear Sculptor. The middle viscosity is our build or build pink, and then our thinnest is the Flex. Okay, so it's your choice which one you use. Again, if you're sculpting and building nails, the thicker gels are going to work great. If you're doing more layers and dimensions, the Flex or the build are going to work great. Okay, so the third challenge or third mistake that people tend to make when they're using gels is that if somebody is an acrylic user and they're more used to using the acrylic, they tend to do more pressing of their product. With gels, you actually don't want to do any of that pressing. You want to do more of a floating technique. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to come in with my concealer pink, and if I was going to be doing an overlay, okay, I can use either the precision tubes or I can use any of the gels out of the pots. Okay. Oh, there's a little bubble in there. There's your added information. Make sure that you always pop those little bubbles if they come out, so that way it's not going to cure in the nail. Okay. So you can use the applicator tip to move your product around, or I'm going to show you how to use the brush to move your product around. Okay. So once we've got our product on there, and there's a couple more bubbles that I'll show you how to deal with those again in a second. Okay. But say we got our product on there. Okay. Now, challenge that people tend to do if they're more of an acrylic user, they tend to come in and they try to press their product and move their product like that. Okay. With a gel, you do not want to do any of the pressing. You basically want to keep your brush connected to the surface of that nail and just kind of float over the surface. Okay. I'm just kind of guiding my product into place. I'm just kind of floating through the surface. Now we've got that little air bubble. Make sure to come through and pop that. Just touch it with the tip of your brush, and then you can smooth that surface over. Okay. But again, do you see how I'm just keeping my brush connected to the product? I'm not doing any of this. I'm not bouncing on the nail, because that's going to give you those little peaks and valleys to your nail. If you just keep your brush connected, and I'm kind of working in more of a circular motion, and that's just going to help to guide your product into place. Okay? You can work that either in that circular or even kind of a back and forth motion to get your product right up to your cuticle and onto your sides. Now when you're finished and you feel like you're ready for your brush to release from the product, you want to make sure you're not just lifting it up and pulling, because then you're going to get that little string. Okay, what you want to do is just kind of start to lighten up your pressure. Okay, so just lighten up your pressure as you move kind of back and forth, and eventually that brush will break away from your product. Okay. Again, if you do see any little air bubbles, make sure to pop those so that they don't cure in the nail. Okay, and then again, you can smooth out that surface. Okay, just make sure that you're not bouncing your brush, because anytime you bounce, that's going to leave those little strings and you're not going to get a nice smooth nail. Okay, we'll go ahead and cure that and we'll go on to our next tip. Okay, so the last challenge or mistake that people tend to make with their gel brush is that they try to clean it out with either acetone or alcohol or something like that. With your gel brush, you really don't want to try to clean it out with any solvents, okay? If you do try to use acetone, alcohol, anything like that, it can actually dry out the bristles of your brush. So say you were using your Overdrive, this is our black gel paint, okay? Say I'd been using that and I have a little bit of that extra gel in my brush. How do I clean that out other than using alcohol or acetone or anything like that? I'm actually going to come in with my base gel, or really any thin clear gel would work, but I just tend to like to use my base gel because it's a good consistency. So I'm going to take a little bit of that out onto my mixing tile. Okay. And I'm going to just take my brush and I'm going to start to run that gel through my brush, and you'll start to see it's going to pull out some of that black paint that's already in there. Okay, so keep working that through your brush till it starts to come out clear. And then once it starts to come out clear, you can kind of check on a lint-free wipe to see I've got a little bit more paint stuck in that brush, so I'm going to take just a little bit more of my base. Just have a nice clear space, and we're going to go through that again. Okay. Now if you have a significant amount of color in your brush, you may need to do this a few times, but just like I did here, start by pulling out as much of that extra color as you can and then go into your clear. Okay. So now I can see that my base is still looking fairly clear and it's not pulling much of that black out anymore. So again, I'm going to just test it on my wipe. And it actually looks like there was a little pink in there from before. I didn't clean my brush out perfect last time. So again, just as many times as you need to go through to clean that out. And just, I'm very lightly, I'm not squeezing the lint-free wipe, I'm just kind of holding that brush. And I actually want to leave a little bit of that gel in there. You don't want to clean that out completely because the gel, having that in there, is actually going to hold your bristles together. It's going to be able to keep your brush at a nice tight point so that it's all ready for you to use at the next time. Okay? If you do try to clean out all of that gel, it can actually dry out your brush and it can actually fray some of those bristles. So keep a little gel in there for next time and your brush is good to go again. Okay? So there's 4 different little tips and tricks, mistakes that people made. Hopefully you guys won't make any more of these mistakes and your Synergy Gel nails will be perfect.
Young Nails is committed to giving you the best nail education in the world. Check out more of our videos. Head right over here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and do that by clicking right over here.